Alrighty. My name is George Throop. I'm on a walk of inspiration across America. I have walked from my home in Washington State, and I'm headed to Washington, D.C. Starting out in Washington State, I've walked through Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and here I am in Virginia, the last full state I've committed myself to walking before reaching Washington, D.C.
All right. And so can you tell me a little bit about what inspired this trip?
Okay, so basically, there are a number of things that inspired this trip. I mean, there is the family background story of my mother, Barbara, who she lost her battle to cancer in 1985 at age 33. I was 9 years old at the time. I grew up to learn that of thousands of cancers that afflict Americans every single day, that the majority of these cancers are preventable. And we can prevent cancer by making healthy lifestyle choices. We can make sure we get some good exercise every day, we can eat healthy food, drink plenty of water, get good sleep, find effective ways to relieve ourselves of debilitating stress. Now, I also understand that, say, somebody who's been on the sofa for 20 years, the idea of getting up and running a marathon or climbing Mount Everest can be an overwhelming idea. So, as a result, I just ask for people to start with a simple step, a simple first step to lead up to a greater goal of a healthier lifestyle. That simple first step, if not already, get up, go out, and take a walk today. So I'm walking across America to, on the most basic level, promote walking. And I'm taking millions of steps across America to prove that steps, enough small steps in a given focused, determined direction will lead up to enormous goals. I'm proving that, and I'm living that example. I'm walking the talk.
I gotcha. So can you tell me a little bit about what it's been like to, your journey so far? I mean, every day you're out there walking.
Yeah, I actually, it used to be that my original goal when I left Washington State, September 20th, 2009, was to walk 6 days a week, an average of 20 miles a day, and to rest one day. Well, it didn't take long before I realized how impractical that was. And it wasn't until I reached the Golden Gate Bridge, going into San Francisco 2 months into the walk, that I figured, okay, no more dates and deadlines, no more rigid, strict schedule, none of this. It hadn't been working out, and it just 20 miles, I mean, a lot of times communities are not exactly 20, in fact, almost never are they exactly 20 miles apart. And I walk community to community. Not only that, but for example, I've been invited to speak to high school PE students tomorrow here in South Hill. If I were committed to walking a full 20 miles tomorrow, I would not have the opportunity to do the outreach. And so, I mean, I speak for free, I don't sell anything. My mission is basically to spread seeds of inspiration, to inspire people to move forward. And what better group than students? So basically, the best decision I've made since beginning the walk is no longer having a deadline. And as a result, there are at least as many days that I'm not walking as I'm walking. Or I would say there are probably more days that I'm not walking on the route as I'm walking. Now, I walk a little bit every day.
Sure.
And so I can take walks in the community. I can do short mini walks here and there, whatever. However, as far as on my official route, getting closer to my final goal of Washington, D.C., not every day am I actually accumulating more miles toward that goal.
Sure.
That being said, the greater goal is one of inspiration and outreach. And pretty much every day, there's something I'm doing that's involved with that. So.
I gotcha. So I was curious, I was looking over your background and everything, and I was wondering, what did you do before you did this?
Okay, so before I started walking across America, I spent a number of working years in physical private security for high-rise buildings. So I worked a number of years at Portland's branch of the World Trade Center. I also worked most recently as manager of security for Safeco Insurance headquarters in downtown Seattle.
I gotcha. And so I remember reading about how you were getting set to volunteer in Mexico, and you felt the inspiration. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Definitely. So basically, it was I knew that I had reached my 30s, and I wasn't married, no children, and no mortgage. And so I basically reached the point in life where I felt, goodness, I need to get up, go out, and do something different with life. I need to really, play my role in creating a bigger world, bigger, better, brighter world for myself and the future, the people around me. So, yeah, the job I had, it was taking care of my needs, but it just wasn't cutting it. I mean, actually, what I really needed was, the job took care of the material needs.
Sure.
What I had, though, and what I found were unfulfilled, were spiritual needs. And so I felt I needed to get up, go out, and do something different. So at first, that was traveling and doing volunteer work in Latin America. That was great. It was a wonderful experience. I went down a couple of times. The last time I went down for 5 months, it was Thanksgiving 2008. I signed up for what would be 5 months in Latin America, volunteering and touring. And as soon as I received my confirmation for the volunteer work, I purchased my plane ticket. As soon as I purchased that plane ticket, it was as if a door opened and a path appeared. I mean, purchasing that plane ticket was like taking one major step forward. The door opened, the path appeared, and it was that I would spend 5 months down there. I'd come home and prepare to walk across America.
Great.
And that's exactly the way it happened. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. There's symbolism also in the dates that I left. My mother, she lost her battle with cancer 2 days before her 34th birthday. I began walking across America 2 days before my 34th birthday. In that very same childhood home where she last lived and took her final breaths. So
I gotcha. So let me see. I'm thinking about, you've covered so many miles, as you've gone along. I was wondering, looking back, what are some moments that stand out along the way? It's been a few years from now, right?
Yeah, it has been. Interestingly, so I departed September 20th, 2009, and I walked about 1,000 miles south through Oregon and California. And since leaving the Pacific Ocean, turning east on Santa Monica Beach in California to actually begin my across portion of America from west to east, only twice have I gone home, and I went home and attended the memorial services of both of my grandfathers who reached the ends of their long, productive lives. Both times I went back to exactly where I left off, both in El Paso and then later in Austin in the summers of 2010 and 2011, respectively. Basically, after going home the first time since leaving the Pacific Ocean for Grandpa George's funeral, June of 2010, the pace slowed down significantly, and by the next year, I had only made it to Austin, and even when I went home for Grandpa John's funeral from Austin, I spent a couple months home that time, which is not as much as the time in 2010, but still went back to corner of Riverside and South Congress and Austin, continued on from there. That being said, the walk it's slowed tremendously. I mean, what I thought was at first going to be a pace of, nearly 500 miles a month, has slowed down to a pace of close to 100 miles a month, sometimes even less. And what that's allowed me to do is just gain an insight into the people and the places, the culture, the surrounding everything, And so the true treasure and gem of the experience of my years on the road has been that over 90% of the time I've been invited indoors. Now, I was ready to have to camp out wherever I needed to 99+% of the time. I mean, I had no idea, how was I going to walk across America? And my budget was a shoestring budget, and still is. I didn't know how I was going to accomplish it financially, but I just felt so strongly about it that I felt that even if I had to eat dog food to make it through, that I would do it. And so, and then I call them road angels, the people who've come from the road work and assisted me all the way through. Here we are in April of 2013. I've not spent a single night outdoors in 2013. Now that could all change tomorrow. And I have to be ready for that to change, if and when it does. But in over 6 months, actually not since last summer have I spent a night outdoors. And I basically just have the world around me, the wonderful people, the world around me to thank. I have not paid for but 2 nights, once in Arizona, once in Texas, motel room stays in both places. and I don't see myself paying for another motel room stay, barring an emergency, paying for another motel room stay before reaching Washington, D.C. Because I'll sleep outside if I need to. I'll do what I need to get through. So,
Wow. Wow. So was it surprising to see that sort of reaction when you started out?
yeah, it was very surprising to find that all these angels from the woodwork have come forth to assist me along the way. And shelter and food are my biggest needs, and I'm so often given both, shelter and food. Even today, there was a nice family that gave me lunch. In fact, on my way into South Hill, it was Bill and Kim, Bill Bradley and Kim, I forget her last name, but she manages a local bank. She's branch manager of a local bank here.
Oh, okay.
And they gave me dinner and invited me to their. This was Saturday, 2 days ago. Dinner that night at Brian's, and then Sunday, they invited me to their church service in town here, and took me to lunch as well. And so these are people that I just met on the side of the road. And so there were some other people that on my way in I met on the side of the road that also wanted to give me some food money. I don't ask for this stuff, but a lot of times they'll stop and they'll be happy to supply me with that. And so, and I'm happy to use their assistance well and feel the gratitude for that. And it's just been, the road angels, as I call them, the road angels have just, they've been a tremendous help and value. And not only that, but despite what a lot of us see on our local TV news, you have your 11 o'clock news or your 6 o'clock nightly newscast or whatever for just local TV. A lot of times we get the local blood report, the 5 most violent crime stories of the day or whatever. And in Raleigh, who knows? I guess that area there's over 1 million people, I'm told. And of the 3 to 5 bloody stories of the day that lead the newscast.
Sure.
Well, I feel that the million other good stories that happened, where there was no blood, outbreak of blood or whatever else, violence, that so often those are being ignored, and the focus is being put on that small handful of violent stories. And some people, when they see that, day in, day out, they get this vision that, it's just this terrible, dangerous world out there. And it is true that, we probably should lock our doors, or it's good to have locks on the doors, it's good to have locks on the car doors. It is true that we need to be cautious, but at the same time, we don't need to be paranoid.
Sure.
Most people out there want to help us. In fact, I'm willing to guess that, if any one of us were suddenly to run out of gas or experience some sort of major vehicle trouble on the side of the road, flat tire or whatever, that it wouldn't take long before someone pulls off to the side and says, is there anything I can do to help you? As opposed to, and actually to tell you the truth, most of us know that if our vehicle's broken down on the side of the highway and somebody pulls up behind us, typically we know that they're there to help. And I would say for the most part, typically also, we know that they're not just pulling up to the side of the road to try to rob us of everything we have. And so those are the good stories that quite often are not leading the newscast, so. Anyway, so that's what I've discovered about America. I've gone well over 4,000 miles on foot. Very circuitous, smiley face route across America. And I've been helped just again and again and again. I've never been assaulted. I've never been attacked in any way. I've never been robbed of anything. Nothing's been stolen from me. So I've been treated tremendously well all throughout my miles. And that's just been the key jewel of the walk.
Well, that's fantastic. So what's next?
What's next? That's interesting because I've generated enough, I'll call it spiritual momentum in life, that I don't see myself ever just going back to being a cog in the machine of some tremendous profit-making enterprise or something. And so, especially if I feel that, sadly we know that there are some businesses in America that do some unethical practices just in pursuit of that almighty dollar. And there are many cogs in the machine that, that make that happen. I don't see myself, becoming a cog in such a machine.
Sure.
So, So as a result, I don't envision myself working for big oil or some of these weapons manufacturers or anything anything else, just because, I don't know. Yeah, I have to do something that basically is furthering the cause of like the good for myself and the world around me. So I've thought a lot about becoming a teacher, which obviously is not very financially rewarding, but I want to get into something to where I can feel happy to wake up and go to work, and I can feel satisfied in my heart at the end of the day. When I go to bed, I can feel satisfaction in my heart that I've been working for the betterment of the world around me. So
That's great.
yeah. So I've yet to know and find what exactly is going to be next, but it'll be something cool, something great. I just don't know exactly.
Fantastic.
There'll be opportunities that'll be available to me once I finish this, and I look forward to following my heart and choosing the best one.
Do you think you'll ever go for another long walk?
Yes, I think I'll go for other long walks in the future. Now, that being said, I don't know that I'll ever walk across America again or walk across countries, but I can definitely see myself walking across my home state of Washington. See, where I'm from in Washington, I'm basically just 4 or 5 miles from the Oregon border. That was where I began my walk, and so within just a couple of hours, I was already crossing the Columbia River into Oregon from the state of Washington.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is begin from Vancouver, Canada, and walk over 300 miles through the state of Washington to Vancouver, Washington. And maybe also, who knows, maybe one day walk to the Idaho border or just other parts of the state of Washington too. And so, ironically, despite the fact that I'm from Washington, by far my smallest amount of time on the walk has been in the state of Washington, just a couple of hours. That was it. So
I got you. Well, I hope you get to do that walk someday.
yeah, I mean, as long as I have arms and legs that work, it'll happen.
Great.
Especially legs that work.
Well, George, thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Seriously.
Definitely.
All right.